I'd like to introduce you to today's presenter, Matt Baker. For the past 20 years, Matt has worked in learning and performance space supporting the manufacturing, retail, IT, and consulting industries. Matt has supported clients as an on-site consultant, project manager, solutions architect, and account manager over the course of his career. Leads GP Strategies Sales Enablement Practice. Without further ado, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Today for our agenda, we'll be covering the following topics. An overview of the trends and opportunities that we're seeing within the retail space currently. We'll talk about some best practices. We've seen some of our retail partners conduct in order to transform their ultimate customer experience. And we'll do an overview of a case study and then wrap up with questions and answers. From an opportunities perspective in the retail space, as we all know, there's a lot of change that is going on in all aspects of every single retail enterprise. The retail landscape continues to change, and in this current age of the customer, we continue to see a number of trends that show up across our retail client portfolio. Some of these include digital, mobile, and omni-centric buying patterns are really changing the way retail store employees are ultimately interacting with their customers at the brick-and-mortar level. Buying patterns are changing through technology, resulting in a need to better equip employees to effectively handle the types of things related to the technology, whether it's loyalty programs, couponing, and even some flexible fulfillment options that are currently out there, all require employees to really understand what those processes are and ultimately how they impact the customer experience. On the customer experience from a big picture perspective, this need really forces retailers to be more agile and current regarding things such as customer journey mapping to ensure that an optimal customer experience is had by every single customer that walks into the door. Enabling store employees to effectively handle these client scenarios, especially in an omni-retailing environment, is critical and ultimately translates retailers needing to place an emphasis on ongoing education through scenario-based and on-the-job training. The culture change and equipping leaders at all levels, including at the store and district levels, to performance are ultimately critical success factors. Engage employees starting with day one of the onboarding process and continue those learnings on an ongoing basis for all store employees is critical to ensuring the growth of current employees as well as ultimately effectively manage turnover. I'll go into some of the best practices that we've seen some of our retail partners exhibit, whether it be through programs or past project work. Onboarding and an overall training perspective, a lot of things continue to change as the landscape of retail changes as a whole. In a highly competitive marketplace, attracting and retaining employees starts with day one of the onboarding process. Our experience with retailers indicates that ensuring there is a structured onboarding program that creates a number of key attributes, key indicators of driving retention and an overall enhanced customer experience. Some of the things we've seen some of our retail partners do include more job and real-world scenario-based training, less time in the back office at a training computer. All of our retail partners today are using customer journey mapping as a foundational element to actually formulate and develop training from. Leverage floor mobile devices, applications that provide training and performance support on the floor continue to become more important. The omni-retailing culture becomes continually more complex. In-store leadership, starting really right from day one, is also another key success factor in effectively onboarding new associates and ensuring that we can also help them grow within the organization and also stay with the organization. managers to reinforce through real-time observation to ensure good habits are created from day one is also critical. And lastly, focusing on the customer. This always and continue to be the primary focus. Ultimately, building enablement and training programs that truly enable store employees to be brand ambassadors to client base is imperative in order to make sure that we're providing customers with the best possible visit each and every time they walk into your brick and mortar location. Learning. This is really one of the biggest areas we see a lot of retailers putting a lot of emphasis on over the past 12 to 18 months. In many instances, ongoing enablement of existing employees is challenging given the operational cadence nature of scheduling. As an example, many of us certainly can recognize the challenges with effectively training and having that knowledge retained for part-time workers especially. Ongoing enablement needs to be designed in such a way that it is easy to manage, especially for busy store leaders, as well as for corporate L&D functions and groups within your organizations. Regularly invest in the ongoing enablement of employees experience better customer interactions and experiences because they're able to keep pace with the changing landscape and keep pace with some of the changes in procedures and protocols. By continuously focus on learning and training, speaking, store associates are more engaged employees. Integration across all levels of employees, which oftentimes results in employees being more willing to share their ideas when incorporated into the overall learning strategy to a more lasting and meaningful learner experience. And time to incorporate employee best practices. Best ideas often come from our store employees. And so we've seen many of our retail partners really put an emphasis on developing collaboration environments, whether it be in store, in district, even within region, to really help them identify some of the ways that folks are going above and beyond in order to help disseminate those best practices across the organization. Engagement. In my experience, one of my managers once told me, as goes a manager, so too goes the store. The challenges and workload placed on managers today, whether it be dealing with personnel, store standards, inventory, productivity, ordering, fulfillment. Obviously, there's a very long list of responsibilities and duties that are placed on store managers. All things at times can take them away from developing their employees and such really limit their ability to interact with customers. We've found retailers need to develop their leaders with the following parameters in mind. Number one, really aligning manager training enablement to the realities of their workload. At leader level, we've heard from many store managers, assistant managers, and shift managers that simply don't have enough time for training. So things that we've seen many of our retail partners do is really put a purposeful emphasis on budgeting time and providing the executive level support to budget this time and incorporate that into a regular training cadence and development cadence of those store leaders. As well, it's imperative that organizations give store managers the time and space to engage and develop their store employees. This time, something that gets thrust to the wayside due to just the operational day-to-day cadence of a normal working shift. Give them tools to become better leaders. Managers are, in some cases, thrust into the role prior to being ready. So setting a program that equips them to lead effectively, as opposed to just training them on operational standards, is critical. Critical to also pair up new store managers or new store leaders with peers that have done it, they've been effective, and they're able to learn the ways that the best do it in order to train in a shorter amount of time, but also to ensure they can take those best practices back to their individual store and actually apply them. Their role in shaping training and development programs. Their ideas are a critical success factor for launching organizational performance initiatives. Some of our best partners have councils with store managers that represent store types based on volume, based on store size, etc. And this council typically enables them to really raise up challenges, best practices, and really gives them an opportunity to collaborate with their peer groups in order to think what some of these best practices are, and proliferate those across the organization. Obviously, digital experience and omni-channel is something that is here and is not going to go away. With the advent of omni-channel and all the facets that touch store employees, it is critical to focus on what matters most, and a seamless customer experience. Linking to customer journey maps is becoming more critical to drive desired customer experience, given how fast operational procedures are changing, especially at the brick and mortar level. Focusing employees using scenario-based and on-the-job enablement strategies promotes a better overall customer experience related to omni-selling, such as the sale, extended aisle, and flexible fulfillment initiatives especially. By these and providing real-world scenarios and using customer journey mapping, you really promote a shorter time to competency and the confidence in the individual employees that they're equipped and prepared to handle any scenarios that a client may present to them. Ultimately, it ensures that at the end of the day, the objective of providing the best customer service is ultimately achieved on each and every visit. A critical element of this is providing real-time performance support on the floor using available technologies that you have available to you within your individual store locations. Many partners are deploying and leveraging mobile devices. So the devices that you can also use as a mobile POS terminal are also being co-deployed as a performance support tool. And some of the support options on there could be as simple as quick reference guides that give them step-by-step how-tos. It can also provide videos and overviews of different scenarios and situations that they will encounter. And lastly, it can be used as a great communication tool to ensure that store employees are aware of upcoming changes so they can prepare themselves accordingly. And lastly, we have seen many folks, especially with stores now using flexible fulfillment options and especially being fulfillment centers, ultimately developing things such as playbooks, using these back at workstations, in many cases in the back room, so you can really truly understand what the right process is to receive an inventory in the right way and ultimately process inventory out in which ensures the customer receives an accurate order and they receive that on time. So a lot of these key focuses are really designed to ensure that at the end of the day, employees feel they're prepared and able to address any of these scenarios that a client may throw at them. Back to the basics. Obviously, things in retail continue to change at a very fast pace. The customer experience really requires a focus back on the basics. Some of the things that we've seen some of our partners really focus on in the past 6 to 12 months include store associates really understanding and able to effectively manage the critical customer interaction scenarios. This is done by role, sometimes this is done by function. Managers to be able to provide support where and when needed. And of course, of essential customer service principles as the customer comes first. And lastly, preparing store employees to meet the customer where they are. Serve the customer in a manner that is best suited for the individual, and all customers are alike. And to kind of put things all together, I'm going to share a quick overview of one of our case studies. And this really encompasses many of the principles we talked about thus far today. This ultimately is faced with a challenge to revamp their new associate onboarding program, which onboards approximately about 100,000 people annually every year. Their omni-channel strategy and a desire to create an agile and sustainable associate experience, they have really three key goals for the overall initiative. Support the evolving nature of the omni-channel customer, increase associate engagement, decrease ramp-up time and turnover. This required a strategic move from the existing onboarding program, which was based on more traditional training methods that focused on operations and compliance, and moved to a 90-day comprehensive onboarding strategy that drove the following objectives: focus on customer actions, increase time to proficiency, increase productivity, especially at sales level, employee retention, and omni-retailing proficiency, which included flexible fulfillment. The program partner consisted of many facets, including data analytics, where we had not only performance, but such as looking at when associates were leaving and why, to help influence the manner in which training was positioned and sequenced. Bettering of in-store technology. So using things such as mobile iPads to leverage as a store tour guide, especially for to understand everything is and where to get it. Ensures played a visible and active role in the overall onboarding experience, also critical to enhancing the experience in the learner journey that each new associate had. And last, really focus on building brand ambassadorship. The program is live and has resulted in a decrease in new associate turnover, a decrease in time to proficiency, and increase in hourly sales for these new associates. Very proud of the work the team did there, and again, a lot of the principles we talked today were encompassed into this particular program. In the remaining few minutes, I'll open things up for questions before I turn it back over to Kayla.
Dive into to questions, Matt, if you don't mind. I just want to remind everyone that if you do have a question for Matt, to put that in the Q&A module that's in the lower right-hand panel WebEx. Sometimes that gets hidden. So if you have a question, be able to put that there. And Matt covered a lot in less than 20 minutes, and so obviously there might be more information you'd like to discuss with him. So we encourage you to continue the conversation with Matt. Matt, if you go ahead and flip it to that last slide so everyone can see your contact information. I want to remind everyone that the recording and slides from today will be sent to the email address that you provided, and we will try to send that to you probably within the next 24 hours so you have it before the weekend. So we have a few questions coming in. Matt, if you're good, I'll go ahead and just
yeah, go ahead.
Going through them. All right. Well, the first one is, given onboarding is such a large undertaking, do you have any advice or key to success that you've seen?
Question. I think one of the most critical factors is executive level support. In the example I shared a minute ago, that's where we focused on identifying what the program outcomes were, so everybody at the exec level all the way down to the store level agreed that those were realistic targets. And from really putting together a cross-functional team in order to support the overall endeavor. So you have folks from HR, IT, operations, and L&D, making sure that ultimately you've got the right people to drive the right outcomes. Change management was another critical factor. So ensuring up front that you're looking at organizational impact assessments, we're looking at business readiness to ensuring that ultimately you can sequence and roll out the program in a way that is best befitting at that moment in time. Ultimately really enables the organization to get behind that. And is just, I would say, ultimately looking at really being an agile model. Retailers today have different types of employees. Many of you have seasonal employees. So really making a scalable agile model that can meet the demands for different employee types you have, depending upon how big your store is, how big your staff is, and how many different types of store employees you actually have.
It's the 20-minute mark, so I'll go ahead and take one more question. Matt will be following up with any other questions that we missed today with you directly. So have you ever seen other retailers, or I'm sorry, have you seen other retailers effectively equip store managers to better serve their employees? Have you seen?
I think some of the information I shared certainly is, in with this question. And, I think ultimately, from our experience, storage are really one of the critical linchpins in ensuring that you can promote all of the successful performance outcomes you look for at the store associate level. So we've actually partnered with organizations and seen other retailers leveraging mobile technologies. We actually partnered with one group to develop a playbook for sales and service model, and then based on that actually developed coaching checklists that they could leverage walking around the store floor to give real-time coaching. At the same time, at the bigger level, as far as developing the actual leaders to become better leaders, it's really about investing in that program and coming up with a strategy and solution that helps them not only become better leaders, but to ultimately grow through the organization. Developing a program that gives those individuals the ability to see a path forward and a way to grow within the organization, I think, is another critical success factor so that all the investment and time in those folks is not wasted. You're able to retain those folks and have them grow with you as an organization.
That I do want to address before we get off the call, because this is actually something that we're seeing across all the verticals that we work in. But this question is, are there differences that need to be taken into account when dealing with different generations, like millennials versus older retail associates? If so, what are those that need to be taken into account?
That's a great question. So to me, it's all about the learner experience. And so some of the things that we've seen and even done with some of our retailers as we look at developing a learning strategy, really dissecting what the audience makeup is. And I think as we look at, especially with some of the prominence now of having mobile devices in the store, it's really ensuring that you can format some of the performance support into different mediums as one example. So the millennials certainly will look at it on the mobile device, where some of the older generations, and I'll include myself in that, certainly look at more of like the based quick reference cards. So certainly those are all factors that you need to take into account when you're looking at designing and developing training, but also most importantly, performance support strategies. Because again, you got to tailor it and make it easy for everybody to use, and it's got to be focused on the actual audience makeup that you have within your stores.
We're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We're a few minutes over. So thank you to Matt Baker for today's great session, and thanks to everyone who attended for your time and attention. We hope that you'll join us again for one of our upcoming sessions. It's hard to believe this, but there are only 2 programs left in 2016. The one next week is actually our biggest session of the year. This will happen on December 8th in partnership with Training Industry. Don Duquette will be talking about forecasting success, addressing learning trends for 2017. And on December 15th, Sherry Weppel will be sharing insights on micro-learning, discussing whether it can be standalone as its own training event or if it needs to be part of a larger learning strategy. Registration for both of those can be found on our webinars page at gpstrategies.com, and I wish everyone a great day. Thank you.